In late October 1512, Michelangelo Buonarroti climbed down for the last time from the scaffolding on which he had spent 3 years of his life painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling. His body was broken, his steps unsteady, and his sight impaired. Unlike other great Renaissance masters, most of whom worked with the help of many assistants, he insisted on painting alone, or virtually alone. A fresco covering an area of 1,000 square meters with over 300 figures illustrating the Old Testament book of Genesis. 20 years later, he added to this masterwork a monumental fresco on the altar wall, a swirling mass of anxious figures surrounding Christ on the day of reckoning. The fame of this unprecedented pictorial achievement spread immediately, and although both criticized and admired, it has never been equaled. In 1508, Buonarroti was entrusted by Pope Julius II with a painting of frescoes on the Sistine Chapel ceiling at the Vatican. Raphael worked on the decoration of the Vatican stands and was influenced by Michelangelo. The Sistine Chapel ceiling appears as a long barrel vault dominated by a series of 9 major compositions running down the middle and teeming on all sides with figures painted with a strong and sculptural feeling. The chapel was built by Pope Sixtus, who died in 1484 and gave it its name. It had always had the dual function of a Palatine chapel and an advanced fortification in the famous Parrot Courtyard, one of the oldest parts of the Vatican Palace. During the Renaissance, it lost most of its defensive function, but its forbidding aspect remained and can be seen today from the outside of the building. In 1477, the medieval construction was redesigned and given its present appearance, which includes a basement, a mezzanine, and the chapel itself, covered by a long barrel vault. The floor plan of the Capella Magna is noteworthy for its simplicity. A large rectangle, 40 meters long and 13 meters wide, the same dimensions as those attributed in the scriptures to the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. When the painter was all ready to begin the fresco work in late 1508, the chapel was already decorated with a remarkable cycle of composition on the side walls. By 1481, Perugino, Botticelli, and Ghirlandaio, Michelangelo's former painting master, and Rosselli had signed contracts to execute a series of fresco panels devoted to the lives of Moses and Christ. These 4 artists had been assisted by other, no less talented painters, including Pinturicchio, Piero di Cosimo, and Bartolomeo della Gatta. Another artist, Pier Matteo d'Amelia, had decorated the vault with a plain sky full of stars, which Michelangelo subsequently removed. Around 1481, Perugino executed the decoration of the wall behind the altar, which was to be replaced around 1535 by Michelangelo's Last Judgment. The project initially conceived by the Pope was fairly modest. Michelangelo was to paint the figures of the 12 apostles in the upper section of the chapel's side walls and decorate the vault with a simple geometric design. But the artist soon proposed a new and an entirely original, not to say ambitious, idea that allowed him to bring together in one place all of the figures that already peopled the drawings, sculptures, and fresco panels. Adding to the existing 14 murals from the late Quattrocento, he would cover every surface from the barrel vault, spandrels, and lunettes to the 4 corner pendatives, with an unprecedented host of biblical figures and architectural ornaments, including a cycle of 9 major compositions running down the entire length of the ceiling. Michelangelo had to take into account the iconography of the existing fresco panels on the rear and side walls. Thus, the figures in the spandrels and lunettes, the precursors of Christ, serve as a logical transition between the stories of Michelangelo was born March 6, 1475, in the village of Caprese, located in the Apennine Mountains of Italy. He was the second son of a Tuscan administrator. Among the ancestors of this formerly noble family were money changers and soldiers, but no painters. The artist described himself as being of very noble lineage. He lost his mother at the age of 6, and that even surely accounts for many of his characteristics. Michelangelo's father and uncle opposed his childhood wish to become an artist, considering that professional unworthy of the family social standard. In 1448, encouraged by a friend, Michelangelo became an apprentice at the Florentine workshop of the famous Ghirlandaio brothers, but stayed there only a year. He learned how to draw after the great masters of the past, and from life. In 1489, Michelangelo was accepted to Lorenzo de' Medici's Art Academy. His master was Bertoldo di Giovanni, the student of the great Donatello. Lorenzo treated him like a son. It was during this period of time that he decided to devote himself to sculpture. Angered by his constant teasing, one of his fellow students struck him in the face and broke his nose, disfiguring him for the rest of his life. Upon Lorenzo's death in 1492, Michelangelo returned to his family. Although it was forbidden by the church, he dissected cadavers with the help of the prior of Santo Spirito. Sensing the imminent fall of the Medici family, Michelangelo fled to Bologna,